All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pump House Virtual Artist Talks, where we share insight into the art we display into our three art galleries. My name is Olivia, and I'm the current arts administrator here at the Pump House Art Center. Today, I'm joined by Chase Gentry, whose exhibition Imagination Dissection will be on display in our Kader Gallery from May 24th to July 15th, 2023. Chase describes his exhibition as a journey to understand the depths and inner workings of the human imagination, using many mediums such as watercolor, ink, spray paint, and more. So, welcome, Chase, and thank you for joining me today.
Hello, happy to be here.
Great. So, why don't we start with you giving just a little bit of background in your creative journey and when you started creating artwork?
Yeah, so I have been creating artwork my whole life. And ever since I was a kid, I always had a pencil in my ear and just was always walking around doodling all over my homework. Got in a lot of trouble, but I just kept with it. And art teachers and things like that kind of pushed me in the right direction um, to keep working and stuff like that. So I started selling artwork in high school, which was nice, and just kept going along that path. I avoided any sort of like schooling or anything like that besides high school and just kept with it. And that's now I am where I am now.
Great. Yeah, as you look through your work, I definitely see like these type of characters and things that have kind of developed that you've kind of followed along the years. Where did you find inspiration for those characters and that development of
Yeah,
that
well,
style?
actually, it's from Adventure Time. A lot of my inspiration comes from cartoons and things like that I grew up watching. Adventure Time is a big one for sure, along with other ones more obscure, Flapjack, Chowder. Cartoon Network specifically is a huge inspiration. And what I would do a lot of the times was pause scenes from those shows and just draw what I was looking at. And I kind of merged it with my doodles in a sense, and it became this its own thing with a little bit of cartoons sprinkled in the mix. But yeah, I'd say definitely Cartoon Network, Adventure Time, if my tattoos don't tell you.
Great. Yeah. And you say doodling is very important in your work. Do you mostly just work in like on with pen and paper, or do you also do digital artwork as well?
I do both. The majority is pen and ink and with paper, but occasionally I'll merge with like digital. Also, I'm in the side note, I'm in the little city of Philadelphia, so there's plenty of sirens in the background. This even on the eighth floor. But anyways, back to what I was saying is, yeah, I dabble in both. You know, commissions is where I usually do digital work. It's just easier to send pieces and distribute them to clients digitally. But for personal use, I like to draw on paper with pen and ink for the most part.
Great. Well, let's start getting into the show that you're going to be having here at the Pump House. Is it true that this is your first gallery show? And how are
Yes,
you feeling about that? Excited?
I am. I everything, all the emotions: excited, scared, nervous. It's my first real show of any kind. I had one years ago at Lincoln Middle School with the students, which was cute, but
Mhm.
it was a great experience. But this is definitely a fully fledged art exhibition. And I promised the Pump House that I would go all out in a sense, that I just kind of laying out everything on the table. So that also made it a little bit more nervous because as soon as I got accepted, I realized, oh, well, actually now I have to do all of those things that I
Yes.
promised. So I promised a lot of work and that's what I'm doing. So I'm excited, nervous, scared, all of the above.
Well, great. Well, we're definitely looking forward to having the abundance of your work in our galleries. So let's get into one of the pieces that you're going to be bringing. Do you have a title for this piece?
No, so the majority of the pieces that I have shown here today and will be at the show are kind of like a stream of consciousness thing. I feel more like I'm an antenna to what is coming out on paper. It's like my mind kind of goes blank a little bit. As far as the titles go, I like to leave it, I don't know, I like to leave it blank almost in a sense, just very simple, because I like to leave the title up to the viewer to decide in a sense, because I want to help people's imagination. So that's the long answer.
Hmm.
No, I don't.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I included a little bit of a close-up shot of this piece just to show the amount of detail that goes into your pieces. And when looking at it, I feel like there are just so many different little stories and narratives going on. Do you feel like your work is a sense of storytelling in a way of your imagination?
Yes, absolutely. And I leave it up to the viewer. Like I said, I don't have any sort of story in mind while creating these pieces. It's more towards the end when I finish a piece and I set it down and I start to look at it, I develop those stories. And I find that fascinating because everyone's going to come up with their own version of a story. So that's why I kind of leave it. I don't usually say what I'm thinking for the stories, because then it kind of limits other people's thought processes a little bit more. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of stories to be told in a lot of my pieces, especially this one that I'm showing you here. My goal was to just kind of fill every single piece of this canvas with detail and faces and characters.
Yeah, so you mentioned that when you start out, the story kind of develops for you as you make it. How does your creative process work? Do you start with doodles and then work to create a bigger piece, or would you mind describing your process when creating your work a little bit?
Yeah, so it varies from, piece to piece. For this one specifically, I had a smaller doodle that I had the similar theme here, where it's a character kind of laying in a bed of noodle doodles, I like to call them. And I wanted to replicate that in a bigger canvas. So for this one, I did have a goal in mind where I would just draw the silhouette of the character with pencil, and then the outside of the character is stream of consciousness. We on my show on TikTok, we call them noodle doodles. So that's what my fans have called it, at least. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I mean, it's not really hard to explain. I just kind of let it happen. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like I said, I feel like an antenna more than anything else. But for this one, I had a very small idea of what I was actually making. Like I knew what the eyes were going to look like and the face, but as far as the details on the outside, I just kind of went with it as I was going.
Yeah, fun. Well, great. Let's move into another one of your pieces. Um, I was very excited when you emailed me this one just because I feel like it's a little different than some of the other pieces of yours that I've seen. So, would you mind talking about the inspiration for this piece?
Yeah, this one runs deep. I love these diagram pieces. And in a sense dissections, almost like straight out of a biology textbook. um, and when I was younger, I would go to the Scholastic Book Fair. I went to Northwoods Elementary, and we would go there all the time, and I was always so fascinated with specific books that focused on like sharks and creatures, and or cross sections. Another thing too with buildings, they would cut the buildings in half and have little points like describing each little section of it. And same with the sharks and the snakes and dinosaurs, especially. So I wanted to merge my weird cartoon characters with that aspect of biology. And I've also been really inspired by speculative biology, which is a huge community on the internet and on YouTube. And there's a lot of speculative projects out there where they create their own worlds from the ground up using like grounded biology. And I like the idea of doing that, but instead making it not readable. You can't read it because it's from a distant world. So you can come up with your own meanings in your own mind for what each box means. And there's just so much mystery behind it, I feel like. And I like that. It makes me very happy when I create stuff like this. Because I don't
Yeah.
even know what it means. You know, I can't tell you because I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that's so fun about your pieces is because they're so detailed with so many small um, little separate things all riddled throughout them. You can look at them for such a long time because there's so many new things to notice each time you look at them, which is very enjoyable. I'm wondering, because you mainly tend to work within this style, you mentioned being inspired by biology books and things. How do you find inspiration to come up with, different patterns or different doodles and things to draw to keep things, diverse and expand on your style of, all these lines and noodle drawings?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really comes from like pattern repetition, whatever feels good to me. It's more of a feeling than a look kind of thing. And then I go into the looks afterwards. Different angles work better. And if I'm like scribbling, like what feels good, which way feels nice. And I just kind of scribble first and then make do with what naturally I put there, the stream of consciousness, and then trying to merge them all together. And it comes out different ways. So that's kind of like the basics, really. So every piece is different, but keeping in the same relative style. So occasionally I'll add like a different circle or something here and there. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, great. Yeah, it sounds very intuitive, which is
Yeah,
fun, and you can see that within your pieces as well. So,
thank
all
you.
right, let's move on to this one. It's definitely different from
Mhm.
your other two in paint, it looks
Yes.
like.
Yeah.
Will you have a different, like a variety of paintings versus ink drawings and things in your exhibition?
So not as many, there won't be as much paint involved, but this one specifically stood out to me after I created it because it's has a similar process in mind from the pen and ink doodles, but it will, but instead it's more of like a stress relief painting. So I just kind of make different angles, the same process, but with different colors. And with the color process here is where I literally just grabbed whatever was closest to me. I try not to think too hard about my color choice, what paint I'm using, what paint I don't have, and what brushes I don't have. So for this, I looked around and whatever was in arm's reach, I grabbed and put on this painting. And this is probably an outlier for the most of my pieces that are involved in the show. And a lot of these stress relief paintings don't end up like this. This is one that I thought looked cool at the end. The other ones are just kind of all over the place. Do it because it helps me calm down, or it helps like it's stress relief, but this one turned out cool. So we're going to put it in the show.
Well, great. Yeah, it's fun to see
Mm,
some of the color in this piece comparatively to
mm,
your other doodles. It sounds like you're kind of creating and doodling all the time, which leads to these bigger pieces, would you say, or like these constant stress relief paintings, and then one or a few turn out in a specific way where you want to, show it. Would you
mhm.
say that that constant creative kind of process is true for you?
Yeah, it's always it's always doodling, even when I'm painting, whatever digital, any kind of medium, it's always doodling. Zen doodles is what a lot of people call it, stream of consciousness, just letting it all out. And that's pretty much what I'm doing in all mediums. It just what feels good and what I enjoy the most. And I'll occasionally do something a little different here and there for like clients, or if I just get a burst of motivation. But for the majority of it, I pretty much do whatever I like, and that is doodling.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Chase will be here at the Pump House Regional Arts Center on June 2nd. We'll be having an artist reception. There will also be some interactive art along with Chase's work. Would you mind talking a little bit about what that's going to be?
Yeah, so my original plan was to have a small interactive puzzle, in a sense, where they're just mini canvases, probably about yay size, and you can just a puzzle, so self-explanatory. They make a larger image, and that was just kind of a side thing that I thought would be interesting. Another one is paper wrapped around those pillars in the gallery, and for people to just kind of write notes, draw whatever they'd like. And I have thoughts of other post-it notes around the gallery as well, or handing those out for inspiration. But the paper around the pillars are up to you to just go for it, kind of like how I do it with my pieces. So try to keep it
Yeah.
as active as possible.
Yes, we're very excited to watch that part of it evolve. So, as a last minute thought, do you have anything that you want viewers to keep in mind when they're viewing your work in person?
I want you to want to color them. Some of them look unfinished because few reasons. One, I didn't want to color it. Really didn't. And two, if you want to color it, then I did my job. And yeah, that's it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. I know a lot of criticisms I've had is you should have finished the piece. But art is subjective, and it can be finished whenever the artist decides it to be finished, and people have the right to say it's not finished, but that's their thoughts. And I find that fascinating. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about looking at my pieces, and I'm excited for how many people want to color them.
All right. Well, great. Thank you so much. Oh, one more thing.
Yes, one more thought. I will
Okay.
have a coloring book available at the show. So if you are itching to color some of those pieces, I do have, and I will have, a coloring book available at the art show and the art reception.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Chase. I hope everyone comes out to that artist reception to talk with Chase about his work in person. But thank you so much for meeting with me.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm excited. Thank you so much.